Hey, welcome to In a Heartbeat. I'm Liz Aiken. You know, the show comes to you out of the totally cool studios at the Grosse Pointe War Memorial. We are taping in Grosse Pointe Farms, Michigan. In a Heartbeat, WMTV. Now, you know, over a year ago, I splintered my show so that I could move to New York. I live in Manhattan, and I come back and do shows back and forth, and I'm working on some projects there. So I had some people I chose, and you know, you've seen the show now over the last year with my host, with Dr. David Bali, who has done the show for me, covered for me several times, and I love working with him. Joan Patrick Morris is on the show too. You know her. All these serendipitous people with whom I have worked over years. Okay, but I don't care what. Still, and everybody else, put your egos aside, still my favorite person, and I've said this, ever since I started TV in the 90s on 3 different channels or 3 different shows, still is John Clor. John Clor, car guy, from working in the kitchen, making a sack of 10, cookie burgers, psycho burgers, and all this stuff. He still is hysterical. So I am in town, and we talked from, you know, our respective homes. What do you want to do? You know, would you be willing? And he said, of course. What a great guy. But you know, it's so fun. He's already laughing. And I've always said I could start the show and just say, go John, I'll, you know, amble up to the hill, have some coffee, or the village, come back, and then close the show. You never know I'm gone. Who cares? But we do have, amidst all the laughter that we're going to be doing and the fun we're going to have, we have some great informational stuff you seriously need to listen to, take to heart, and seriously step up now to the plate and make the change if you need to for yourself, for a family member. Be smart, be proactive, and don't be reactive. We're going to be talking about when, really when, is it time to stop driving? Whether it is you or somebody else, I don't care. When is it time that the driving, the freedom of driving, has now become a hazard on the road? You want to be proactive and not riddled with regret and guilt. All right? It's a serious subject, but of course, I have my secret weapon here.
Hey, hi, Liz.
JC.
Hey, thanks for that intro. To quote another great cable access show, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy.
I am not worthy. Give me a break.
No, but
right off the bat, give me a break.
You know, this is a great topic, and I really appreciate
it.
Is, and I like being on this side of the desk for this one.
Oh, sure.
There's
I know. Wait, let me go back. Let me just go back for a minute, because as we're setting this up, I'm going, okay, do I have to do this, John?
I'm the host.
Host, interviewer, interviewee. So no, he promised to behave. But
I think all our viewers kind of know, you know, when they see me, it's going to be a little bit transportation oriented. But this one, when it comes to the health, this is a really good topic. So I think it's really worthy of our time today.
It is, yeah.
And why we wanted to talk about it was because it's becoming a bigger and bigger issue for everybody. Why?
Right.
Because the boomers,
we're here.
We're here, and we're moving through society, and we're getting to this point now where we're making up a larger percentage of the driving population. Because young people today, and figure this out, Liz, I can't figure it out. When you get to be 16, you don't die for your license. Got to have it. Got to have it. They wait 16, 17, 18, 20.
What is the deal? Yeah, well, I've heard of that, and I thought it was just a fluke that I was hearing that. For me, for my kids, besides learning to read, getting your driver's license was the next most amazing sense of freedom and your own life. Now, as a person, not just a kid.
Well, it's killing automotive journalists, I'll tell you that, because we're not getting the young people reading our stuff because they really don't care as much about cars. And here's the reason so far that we're able to under dig out of all this. We can find out that kids today, when they get to be 16, 17, 18, remember when you wanted your car because you wanted to go hang out with your friends, you wanted to go explore the world, get somebody in your car, go together somewhere.
Be cool.
Be cool. Well, we have social media now. You don't need to get in your car with your friends and go to so-and-so's house or go to a party. You're on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and you can interact with your friends without ever leaving your house.
You're Skyping it.
You really
you're
are.
already there right front
so
and center
electronically, you're trying to replace that what you had needed mobility for before. So we're finding that kids today don't, I mean, first of all, they drive their mom's old beat up subcompact. They don't really care about their car. They don't define themselves by their car. They define themselves by their cell phone.
So wait, so when you like talk to J.D. Power and Associates, that type of thing, when they are talking about the buying segments of, you know, of the spectrum of life, and that younger age group, whatever they call that, it's so powerful.
Yeah.
But in the
Gen
automotive,
Xers, they're so powerful because it used to be you look to the youth market to try to drive product in the
exactly,
future.
right.
But right now, boomers are buying all the cars. We have the money. We're the biggest buying segment of the population.
And women are of that even.
They're actually more than 50%.
That's right,
They're a purchase driver. So when the boomers now are moving into senior age, we're making up a bigger segment of the driving population because there's fewer young people replacing us at the bottom end of the age scale. So now that we see so many seniors on the road, the question then becomes, when you see on television a senior got out of their car or went into the store, came back, went to drive off and stepped on the gas instead of the brake and drove into a store. We all laugh and think it's funny. It's not funny if it's your grandmother or your mother.
Or a kid in the store or somebody walking by.
And you see this more and more. When I did Heartbeat and did funny shows about driving, I would say and mention that the little blue hairs in their car in the left lane with the blinker on for half an hour, a left turn blinker, by the way.
Eventually,
and all I was saying is that when you get to a certain point in your age, your skills, your awareness level, your reaction times, all those things kind of slow down. So they were aware that their blinker was on for a half an hour in the left turn lane. But it doesn't mean you have to be a senior to have that issue.
I wanted to make that really clear too, because we're not addressing this at people my age and older, please. But there are also going to be times in one's life, for whatever reason, that you have a cognition deficit, whether it's because of medicine or a surgical thing, anesthesia, whatever, anything, or profound stress. Profound stress can alter everything on how you react, and quick enough to be smart and be safe and be alive. So I want to make sure. But for the general gist of this, it will be talking about the senior age. We all have stories of people we know who have lost their ability, their privilege of driving, and do some total freedom to drive for a good reason. But it's like, what's that impact on them, or how did family members or whoever it is go about? So we'll get to that, but
yeah, I think first let's dimension it, Liz. The point is that we have, what do they say now, that today 60 is the new 40?
You got it, babe. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, and then that may be true, but we also find that 80 is not the new 60.
No, it isn't.
Because there is a point where, and I know a gal on my block, she's 90 years old. She works at one of those warehouse stores as a food demonstrator. She drives to work all day, and she's a great driver.
And she's bright.
She's bright and sharp.
So she's still in the realm where it is.
And she's 90. And she's 90. So it's not. I'm not talking about age here. I'm talking about it could be, you could lose this ability at age 50. It's just there is, and you could lose this ability at age 20 if you're on the cell phone or eating a cheeseburger and not paying attention to driving.
The texting. Yeah, and we did a show talking about that.
Yeah. So every age segment has their challenges. It's such a big problem now that just recently the Discovery Channel did a documentary about all the challenges of all these different age groups, and they're going to be showing it again in May. I think we have a little clip kind of promo that. Let's go to that and kind of try to dimension what the problem is about all this driving and age stuff.
Let's do it.
A roadmap for safety. We've heard it since we took the driver's seat.
The year you get your driver's license is the most dangerous year of your life.
The road is a hazardous place.
My leg was outside, pinned between the ground and the roof of the truck.
But with the help of innovative new technologies and a focus on personal responsibility,
when you take your life in your own hands in the car, you take everyone else's on the road's life in your own hands.
we can all be safer behind the wheel.
Stand up for yourself. You have a right to get home safely.
Each stage of our driving lives presents its own challenges, but there are also ways to maximize safety at every turn. From the very young,
children under 2 need to be riding in a car seat rear facing,
to teens just learning to drive.
See, you're not slowing down.
From distracted drivers,
there is no message that can't wait till you get to your destination,
to older drivers.
Birthdays don't cause crashes. It is really about health issues.
And beyond.
As safe as our cars are today, as wonderful as they are in protecting the occupants, there's still more to do.
Understanding our limitations and our responsibilities on the road is critical for all ages to live a safe life behind the wheel.
Each of us has to take personal responsibility for the safety of those that are in the car and the safety of those that are around us.
Watch Life Behind the Wheel, a roadmap for safety.
You know, and I had to stop 1 second because they're talking about that, you know, safety is everyone's responsibility and that type of thing. Now, before I had gone down to Florida to see my kids for my 60th birthday, okay, I won't say, you know, it was just recently, most recently. Anyway, I had just read this thing about the most dangerous highways, and I-95, traveling through Florida. Okay, so it's my birthday. It is so hot outside. I'm going with my daughter while she's taking her MCATs, you know, her med school stuff. And we're on the express, I-95. There is an accident in the middle of the expressway, and there are like 5 lanes or whatever. And so everybody's going very slowly. And as we are going by this truck and this car, there's a piece of the car in our lane blocking. No, we're going very slowly, of course, seatbelts. And we had to stop literally for this chunk of stuff. But unfortunately, the person behind us was distracted watching this and plowed into us. Now, granted, they were not going quickly either, but it was, you know, whiplash stuff. It was, and you go, in a heartbeat, it changes, and it's like, you know, I just read, they go, ooh, I wish it had been smaller highway somewhere, but, and luckily I remember that night thinking it's the best birthday of my life because we weren't in body bags or in a hospital tubed up, you know, like a cheap Sony. I mean, we were there cognitively grateful, but that's how it happens. You, for whatever reason, you change distraction, you lose it, you alter your cognitive level for whatever reason, drugs, drinking, whatever, extreme fatigue. My God, John, it just goes on and on.
It's a series
with the same outcome.
It's a series of issues. Now, the difference is the accidents happen in that heartbeat, but the deterioration of our skills happen over time. And because it happens over time, either you as the senior driver, if you're out there and you're driving and you just think you're as good as you were 20 years ago, or your children who may not come around as often may think that she's fine. There's no problem. Mom takes herself to the store. Or Dad goes wherever he wants. And
they go back off to whatever their life is.
Their life is, they've got other issues. So there's a couple of ways that we can help people figure out if there's an issue. The first way, I think, is to be aware of your parents or your loved ones driving firsthand. Offer to go with them someplace. If you haven't been in the car with your 60, 70, 80, 90-year-old mother or father or sister or aunt or brother, offer to go along for a ride. You'll never learn more than that, you know, because you'll be able to see if they have some kind of a problem with being reactive to the traffic around them. You know, seniors age 70 on up have more intersection accidents than any other kind of accident. The accident rate of that is about 60% of people who are involved in an intersection crash are 75 or older. But if you go to the younger age groups, it's exponentially less. In fact, when you get to a young person, they're only 20% often involved in intersection crash. So it's that ability to see peripherally.
Isn't that interesting?
That they don't see
even the
cars.
ability to still turn your head and fast enough if you need to, and then see it react.
That movement of your head.
You
know, we just talked about this. You know, the idea that the government was going to mandate rear cameras, and somebody said to me, "Rear cameras? Why can't you just do this?" Well, because when you get a little bit older, if you're an 80 or 90-year-old woman and maybe you're a man and you don't have
arthritis or
the dexterity in your body.
All right, plus inside these cars now, with these taller back seats, you can turn, and the tinted windows, you can turn, but you still can't see past now the new headrests in the back seat or whatever is there that physically, structurally, by the car, you're obstructed, regardless of whether your ability, flexibility is still
outward visibility is always an issue, and don't forget, as we get older, we kind of shrink. If we're sitting lower and lower in that seat, we're not in a driving position where we can see the road ahead of us. So that is a big issue. Make sure, if you suspect that you haven't been around your loved one for a while and you haven't been driving with them, take the time to go somewhere and observe. Don't say anything. Don't backseat drive. Just observe how well they turn left, turn right, stop. Because if you're not aware of their driving habit firsthand, you're just making a guess.
Right, and when the neighbor says over the fence, gee, your mom or dad is really, I've noticed them crazy coming up the driveway, barely missing that. But really, it's almost like a health issue. You need to have the baseline check. Know what is normal, you know, and then when there starts to be some deviation of whatever kind.
Yeah, and a lot of people tell me, I went to see my mom, and I don't go anywhere with her, so that's not going to work. I can't. I can't. She'd be suspicious. Yeah, or I drive, and I'd say, well, did you, you know, if there are ruts in the driveway, she's missing the driveway coming in and out. And we made fun today.
Smart.
You know, the faucet was knocked off the side of the house. There's dents and scratches in the car that you don't remember being there. Or maybe back, it goes into the garage too far. Her skill driving that car, or his skill, is diminished. So if you see those things, that's when you have the talk.
The talk.
The talk. You need to sit down and talk.
And this goes back, really, this is something we were talking about the other day in the green room, is that when you're trying to do this, how do you know? Wow. But along with that is that, okay, let's say, you know, when you first get your license, you don't turn 16 and they hand you the thing and say, here's some keys, car, go. You are in the process, obviously, of a well-controlled, hopefully, driving school of some sort. You have to take the test, you've got to, all of this stuff. But at the end of our lives, older or whatever, we are never really reevaluated. We go in, maybe we do a new vision test, maybe we do a new test, you know, and I have a New York State license now. It was just nothing. I mean, it was as simple as any other license anywhere. Of course, in New York, there's a lot of, you know, you don't even have a car. I don't have a car.
Yeah, you don't need a car
whatever.
there.
But I have my license because I do still drive, you know, elsewhere. But why not have something that is an evaluatory process of driving? But again, then the thing is, John, what age do you determine? Right. Or now, you know, can a physician step in? They can't really. They have that HIPAA, you know, the privacy of the patient. Correct. But at what time can and when people come into town and they go to the doctor with their loved ones or whatever, and the doctor may say, maybe used to be able to say, look, I'm noticing this, and if he or she is still driving, you need to be, but making the actual determination, evaluation, and then decision.
Sometimes it's not. It's
very
hard. You want to be involved from the beginning. So if you don't notice anything about your mom or dad's car, or your aunt or uncle's car, or your loved one's car that is giving away telltale signs that they're not as good as they used to be, or if you can't drive with them firsthand, the next thing is when they go to the doctor, whether it be an eye doctor or their regular physician, they would say, and I know someone who had the doctor come to them and say, your mother has macular degeneration. Right. And it's to the point now where I don't think she should be driving. She didn't have a car accident. She didn't go through the plate glass window at Wendy's.
This is a profoundly proactive stance.
So now the doctor, the doctor told the family, he suggested to the family that you now take that to your loved one and sit them down and say, have the conversation. Now that conversation can go well, and they can say, yeah, you know, I guess I'm, you know, okay, here's the keys, or it can go really poorly.
You know, and that's right on target. I talked to a friend of mine who's a minister who's in this area, who now has a parish in Connecticut, and she has an older parish. So we text back and forth all the time. And I said, what have you seen? She said, interestingly enough, she said, when this is happening with my congregants, she said, the women will be the ones more inclined to step back and say, yes, you're right. Okay, then I'm not saying all the time. No. But the men are the ones who are saying, baby, don't be taking those keys from me, because that's my freedom. It's my manhood, it's my freedom, it's my decision making. I'm still in control as a man. Yes. And she said she has, and no offense, don't take offense, but it is really how you see yourself. Yes. And it's very very interesting.
Consider too that the men we're talking about are the boomer age, and we defined ourselves by our cars.
Oh my God! You're not kidding.
So when you take your car away, these guys, and they may be driving a car that's not as hot as it used to be, but when you take your car away, it may be a little bit more a philosophical problem. These guys just can't, and they don't want to be chauffeured around. You know, a lot of these. I know my parents. My mom wasn't driving very often, and after my dad retired, he just drove around like a chauffeur, and she lost her skill to drive because he was always doing all the driving. So then she was fearful. And by the way, when she did drive, she got onto the on-ramp and stopped at the bottom of the ramp because she was too nervous to merge. Yeah. So
I've seen that. If I texted a friend of mine in Florida whose mom lived up here, and same thing, but he said what he saw is that she acquiesced willingly, and then she did have somebody who drove her. Right. And then when she finally went into an assisted living situation, she just said, I'm done. Right. And that's right. But if another friend of mine, a woman, very strong, you know, widowed for many, many years. So really had to run her own empire. Drove, and she drove. This woman was brilliant. She's so cool. She wasn't giving up the keys. But she would go places and not be, you know, they wouldn't know where she was, and she certainly didn't know where she was.
Well, part of it, are they a type A personality?
No, not really. But here's what they did, and this was a sort of a graceful way to get around it. I don't know if I should say this because don't check with your mechanic. But they said, Mom, you know, if there's something wrong with the car, we've got to have it checked out. We've noticed it when we're driving in town to drive because the kids all live out of state. And so they basically made the car, they deactivated the mechanisms of the car. Really? And then after a while, she became more comfortable with it. And then they just finally said, we're done here. Yeah. And she was so mad. But you know what? But with the oncoming dementia, then it was less of an issue because there were other, you know, history things.
And you see that on the news too, Liz. You'll see that someone who has a mild form of early onset Alzheimer's or dementia will go out driving, and you say to yourself, you know, that family wasn't able to say, no, I'm going to go, I'm going to make this trip.
I don't want to hurt their feelings.
Right.
Forget it.
It's about safety. It's not just it's not just the safety of your loved one. It's the safety of the other people on the road. Right. If someone makes a regular trip every day, and all of a sudden they're coming back an hour later just to go to that thing that took them a half an hour, this may be a sign. You don't have to have outward signs. You know, like I remember my neighbor when he was in his 90s, he came back, there was a mailbox stuck under his car. I mean, he actually still dragged it all the way home, and the police came, and he had hit the, you know, he didn't
even know.
He heard him, he said, I heard something, but I didn't know what it was. And underneath the front of his Cadillac was this crumpled mailbox. It doesn't have to be that way. It could be something so subtle that he went out for his normal 30-minute trip, and he came back an hour and a half later because he forgot where he was going, or how to get home. He made a wrong turn somewhere and got disoriented. Another thing is the outward appearance of the car can be fine, but if you hit curbs and all of a sudden, if you when you overshoot a parking curb, you know, which happens often, if you're because you don't have that depth perception. We've all done that, but you can tell if the car's like kind of acting funny, or you're taking it for the oil change and it's wobbly because you bent the rim. It could have been the pothole, but it may be something else. So we're asking people to raise your awareness level of your senior or elderly driver. Monitor that, and if it gets to a situation where after you monitor them firsthand, you know, this might not be the best safety thing, it's time to talk.
Let me ask you this, and this will seem off the subject, but it really isn't. So now, you know, you see when kids have done things, and now they're starting to prosecute the family, or the parents, for the misdemeanors or whatever. I wonder if at some point when there's a parent who should have been stopped, and the family is, you know, too whatever, you know, I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want to make them feel like less of a man or less of a person. And then something happens, and everybody knew how I went illegally. I have no clue. I'm just, you know, thinking that puts it in a whole another perspective for the family member.
Well, that should be the driver.
Step in.
Not just if it were a legal issue, but I mean, think of the moral issue, where you knew your parent or your loved one had a driving problem, but you let them drive anyway because you didn't want to. Because you didn't want to have the conversation. You know, and now I've heard of families that said, you know, sometimes it's the eldest son, daughter, or the favorite niece or nephew that comes and sits down and talks. But I've been told that when other people have this issue, what works is kind of an intervention. The whole family should be there.
Are you serious?
Well,
I guess like any other intervention.
It's like a drug or
if the subtle discussions one-on-one don't do it.
Let's say you said to your mom or your dad or your aunt or uncle, listen, you know, we just came back from that, you know, have you ever thought about, well, let's get your eyes checked, or how do you start caring about them? How do you feel?
So, but you know, also with that, again, and not to focus just on the age, because it could be other factors that are you know, influencing it. But
the health.
Just general health, but I mean, even like I said, medications or medication changes. And how many medications are basic things that you take and they say, what do they say? No, do not operate heavy machinery. And this is over-the-counter stuff.
And people go out and drive.
You don't even know, people run in, they buy something over the counter, they take it, and then on top, if they're taking that on top of regular medications, and there is an interaction between that, again, it could be transient, resolvable, but in the moment, deadly.
And the issue now is, okay, so you have a loved one that you do present this issue, and you say, care about them enough to say, look, we'll help. We'll, you know, if it's a health issue, let's get it looked at. If it's not a health issue, everyone has to band together. That's why the family thing's important, so that you can take them to their doctor's appointment and get them out of the house, because you don't want them just stuck. and then
No,
their
you
life
don't.
goes downhill.
So it really, and I look at it too, that it almost becomes a setup of a, like, let's say blood pressure. When people are looking at blood pressures, there are controllable issues, there are uncontrollable issues. You know, things that you can't. So you have that situation, you sit down with them and you say, maybe you put, here's another thing, put it in print. Sometimes when you have that, they won't remember. But I even learned dealing with my kids that if there was something I needed to get across and I knew I was saying that they weren't getting it, I would put it in writing. And then when you're gone, they can pull it up and review it and go, yeah, yeah, yeah. So put down, these are controllable things. Let's get, like you say, let's get it checked, the meds, the vision, the hearing, the reflexes, and all, let's get it checked. These maybe not, maybe there is a physiological change that is occurring.
Right.
Let's get these checked. And if at the end of all that, there are variables that can be resolved, then great. If they can't, then you have the intervention, say, you know what, it is a responsibility of all of us.
It's a family responsibility. And I think it's time to pay attention, because you don't want to be that person who stuck your head in the sand and ignored it. And then either your loved one got hurt, somebody else got killed or injured, and a bad thing happens. So the time to get involved is early.
So it really, it's like you say, have the talk. So it's the talk whether they're young kids and you're talking about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, you know,
right.
Or it's the very end of life, having the talk about, you know, what do you want for your own personal health as you know, end of life issues.
Right.
But somewhere nestled in between is this talk that is not just about that person. It is now, could be many.
A difficult talk, definitely for sure difficult,
thing.
but you got to make it. You got to make it happen.
You got to make it. You got to have it. Be responsible. Be proactive.
Bottom line, let's think about, we love these people.
Yeah, we do.
If they're in our family, we want the best for them. And it takes us just getting involved. Right now, if your routine involves stopping by mom, dad, uncle's house once a month, make this little thing we talked about today part of that routine.
Excellent. Yeah, you got it.
Raise your awareness. Again, Liz, thanks a lot.
John Clor.
Hopefully we made some changes.
That's why I didn't have to do this once to you. I am so pleased with you.
When I interview you, we'll do that same thing.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, the shoes will be flipped. All right, so you know how important this is. I mean, I can never say this again. Watch it. Have somebody you know, love, needs to be thinking about it. Watch the show again and again. You know what John thinks. And I do want to know, you've got my email address on the screen as well as John's. What do you think?